Hello everyone, it's Bia, your favorite sustainable, anti-fast fashion and environmentalist alternative fashion content creator and educator, both here on YouTube, where you're watching this video, as well as on TikTok and Instagram, which can be found via the link in the description. And look, we're back in the craft/DIY room, aka the actual studio that I work out of. And we're obviously, you can see, doing another video in the How to DIY series. And this video is a video of a DIY tutorial and idea for you guys. As I said, they would be in this series. And it's a really simple clothing upcycle you can definitely make out of items that you can easily go to a secondhand craft store, a secondhand store, or even your local craft store and get the materials, and you definitely already have the main thing you need in your closet. And if you don't, go to a thrift store and you can find it. And you can easily find a sewing machine on Facebook Marketplace, buy nothing groups, etc., etc. There are so many ways you can find a sewing machine if you don't want to go out and buy one. I got this as a gift, so I didn't buy it. And we're going to make a lace tank top out of a simple tank top that you already have in your closet. And if you don't, you can easily find it from a thrift store. Firstly, the things you're going to need are your favorite tank top. I would recommend picking a tank top that fits you a little tighter like this one, as well as some lace trim, which you can find at a local craft store, at an online store, but you can probably also find it at a secondhand craft store. So I'd recommend you find one of those and go to those before you go to like a Michael's or, well, Joann's isn't around anymore, so Michael's, and we don't support Hobby Lobby on this channel. You know, or you can find a piece of clothing that you already have, or a piece of clothing at a thrift store that has some lace on it, and cut that out and use that as a lace trim. But this is just about 1 yard of lace trim. You're gonna need roughly about 1 yard. If you want to have extra for other projects that you might do, I would definitely recommend getting 2 yards, because if you only buy 1 yard, which is about this much, that's only going to serve you to make this tank top and this project. And you're also going to need either a hand sewing and a hand sewing needle. Obviously, I cannot hand sew, so this will not be a hand sewing tutorial. But you could probably do this with very similar steps via hand sewing or a sewing machine like this one that I have here. I have the Brother CX7000X. It's a great machine. I would recommend it. But there are so many different ways you can find sewing machines that I said a little bit earlier in this video. But yeah, you're either going to need a sewing machine or the ability to hand sew. If you are planning to hand sew this, I would not recommend using this. Just because it's not really worth it to use hand sewing and learn how to hand sew to do this, because it's easily done with a machine, and doing it with a machine will actually make it a lot quicker. That way you have more time. So I'm going to show you guys the machine. So we're going to start by going over to where I usually cut my fabric and stuff, and I'm going to show you guys how to cut it in the next clip. Okay, so we're back, and we're here at the table that I'm going to cut the stuff. Obviously, you are not going to cut or alter the tank top in any way unless you would like to make it more fitted. If you would like to make it more fitted, you should probably pause this video and go find a tutorial on another platform. That is not something I have a tutorial of, because it is not something that I know how to do. But plenty of other creators on this platform, as well as on TikTok, have made plenty of incredible tutorials on how to alter a tank top or a shirt to make it fit you tighter. And if you would like to make it fit tighter, go pause this video, go watch one of those tutorials, follow it, and then come back. Okay, I'm assuming you're back if you want to do that. If you're not, you can keep watching. So we are not going to alter the tank top anyway. No matter what you've done to this tank top, keep it, or camisole, whatever you're using, keep it the way it is. Do not alter this. But keep the tank top with you. Next up, you're going to lay the tank top flat. If you would like, you could put a cardboard, a book, something underneath it, in between the two sides of the tank top. In my case, we are not going to do that because that is not something I have and something I recommend. Now you're going to take your lace trim and you're going to line it up with the tank top. This is where you have to be really, really careful. Well, and make sure you're doing it on the front. If you need an easy way to spot the front of your tank top, the front of your tank top is always going to have these 2 triangles pointed upwards. That is because it covers the breast area. And now you're going to kind of line up the lace. I would recommend using something to pin it down for a second. For me, I'm just going to use that Altoids container. And then you're going to trim it. You can use any scissors, but I would recommend getting fabric scissors. Fabric scissors can be used on all fiber products. Do not use them on paper, cardboard, or anything that is not a fiber arts related material. Personally, I use mine only for fabric and thread, and that is what I would recommend to you guys as well. Fabric, thread, and trim. But now you're going to cut. And then you have the one side. So what you're going to do is you're going to get some pins. If you don't have pins and you want to sew, I talked about these as an essential in the materials video. So if you would like to go back and watch that now, that is something you should probably watch. Okay, you're back. But if you don't have pins, go get some pins, a cushion, a container, or something to hold them in. Now you're just going to pin it down onto the material. This helps to hold your trim in place on the tank top. You don't need many pins, but I personally would recommend at least 2. So now you have the one side of your lace cut and pinned. So you're going to repeat the steps that we did on this side on the other side. I'm going to walk you guys through it again so you can continue following along with me, unless you think that you're confident enough, which means you can go to the other one. I hope you guys like my water bottle. Now you're once again going to line it up. Line it up with the edge of along the edge of your tank top here. Once again, you can put something on that to hold it down. For me, I'm using that Altoids that Altoids container, but you can use anything. And now you're going to cut it along the edge. And once you've done that, you have your piece of... Another thing I would recommend is you make sure to line up the lace with the end of the piece you cut on the other side. That way it's more continuous. And once again, you're going to take some sewing pins and pin it down just like you did it on the other side. And you can also follow along with me. And watch me do it. So here I'm going to recommend that you pin your end here and you pin it to the other side of the lace. Sorry guys, that pin was really bent. Never use a bent pin. It doesn't look right. Now, if you have sensory issues, lace maybe bothers you. I personally do have sensory issues, which is why I'm saying this. Lace does not bother me. If you think that lace might bother you or your sensory issues, since you are the only one who knows yourself and your sensory issues the best, I would not recommend making this tank top, as it would not be comfortable for you. There you go. But there, once you go, pin it, you make sure it's correct. Now, we have one last step. And it seems like a step we should have done at the beginning, but we didn't, and we want to make sure that we do it. So you start by taking all the pins out of your lace and sticking them back in your pin cushion or container. If you're wondering, I cannot tell you exactly how long your lace needs to be because it depends on the length of the top of your tank top. All I can tell you is that when you go to the store or you order your lace, to pick up at least a minimum of 1 yard, maybe 2 if you would like to use it for extra projects. Now, once you've unpinned the lace, you're going to flip your tank top inside out. And that is because when you flip it inside out, you will see all the seams and the seam allowance. The reason that we're flipping this on the inside is because the inside is where we want the stitches to be. And once you've flipped that, you once again are gonna lay your tank top out on your table, your countertop, your floor, or whatever it is, even your ironing board. Whatever it is that you're using to kind of out, and then you're gonna pin, and you're once again gonna line up the lace and pin it back. You can follow along with me and what I'm doing here. Here to make sure that you're pinning it correctly. If you're wondering how I come up with the ideas on how to make these tutorials and how to upcycle these clothes, I simply look at my closet and see what I could add, something to make it look like something I saw on Pinterest. Pinterest is great for DIY ideas. Yes, and if you're wondering, oh, Bea, where do you get most of your DIY ideas? I just told you the answer. It's Pinterest. And now you're going to line up your other side here and make sure it looks the way you want it to look. Personally, I like to pin the two sides of my lace together as well. And I'm going to recommend, especially for this project, it will be different for different projects, that you be very, very generous with your pins. And that is because you really want this lace to stay in place while you're sewing it. That way it doesn't get messed up. And the best way to do that is honestly just use lots of pins. So sometimes you might have to, realign it. Like I'm doing here. That's honestly fine. You didn't mess anything up. But I'm actually going to get something put under this if you guys give me 1 moment. For this, you don't need something that will reach over the entire tank top. You just need something really simple, like a book. Like I'm going to use a book here. And this book, it can just go here, so I can just kind of... Okay, so this book is not working. So, scratch out and ignore everything I said about using a book. Sometimes if you cut your lace to... And now you're going to pin, once you've realigned your lace, pin it down, like I am doing here. And then once you've pinned it, you're good to go. And what I like to do is your lace should probably look something like this. Personally, I like to put it and check how much of it is exposed on the top. And the one side has a little bit more of the lace part exposed here, so... So I'm going to fix that a little bit. Yeah. So obviously it does not have to look perfect. Your DIYs are not going to be perfect, okay? Imperfection is what makes DIY really cool and really special. And now that you're done with that, your tank top should look something like this now with the lace cut and pinned to the top. We're going to go over to the sewing machine where I will show you guys how to sew it and what I recommend. Okay, so we're obviously at the sewing machine. So the first thing I recommend is you bring your fabric scissors or your normal scissors or whatever kind of scissors that you were using to cut over here in case you have to trim your string or your thread at any point. I'm obviously not going to unthread and rethread the sewing machine. If you would like to know how to thread a sewing machine and a bobbin, I have 2 videos posted to my channel from a couple weeks ago that you can go watch that show you and walk you through in depth how to thread and how to unthread a sewing machine. Okay, if you want to watch those, I hope you're back now. So I would recommend using the same bobbin color and the same thread. For me, I'm going to use black. Your thread color does not matter for this project as you're going to sew on the inside. I would recommend you use a color that either matches the color of the lace trim that you're using or the tank top, or both. For me, because I'm sewing a brownish black tank top with black lace trim, I'm going to use a black thread. Now you're going to put your tank top on the machine like I'm doing. Make sure that you only have your top, or wherever you're sewing the lace, if you're taking this tutorial a little differently, make sure that you have that on the machine as well. For me, I like to use one of these big trays for that because I can easily stretch the tank top over it. But your machine definitely came with this tray. Now you're going to start by sewing. So this is where you have to be super attentive, and you're going to start by doing a very important part, and that is to take out your first pin. Do not sew over these sewing pins. I repeat, do not sew over the pins. Watch to make sure you're taking the pins out before your machine can go over them, because if you don't, you will destroy your machine. Make sure to double check that your bobbin is done and threaded correctly as well. In my case, I know it is because I just checked before filming this. Now you're going to place your lace tank top under the machine. You can use whatever stitch you like. Personally, because this is a bit of a stretchy tank top, I'm going to use a zigzag stitch, and that's what I recommend you guys use as well. And wear shoes. And now sew. So for me, I've run into a bit of an issue that was an unexpected issue. My machine has actually come unthreaded. So I'm going to thread that now. Another thing is that I like to run the machine a couple times before I sew it, just to make sure, just to make sure there's no issues and the needle is running properly. And another thing I like to do, I talked about this in the threading the machine, is when I'm threading my machine, I like to keep the foot down. That way there's more room for my hand to go through the needle. Boom. And now foot up, put your tank top and your lace under your machine foot. Neat. That was a spray pin, and I like to keep my sewing area organized. See this? And now you can sew. I am going a little bit slower than I normally would, so you guys can see in this tutorial. Once again, you should definitely be using a zigzag stitch. And you can see we're coming up on a pin here. I'm going to pull that pin out and put it back in my pin cushion or my container. Do not sit on a pin cushion. And now obviously we're getting to a really weird spot where you can see we made a small tiny little error. So we're going to cut the threads here. And you're going to see that I did not adjust my And you're going to see that, sorry guys, I knocked out scissors. See that this top spot is not positioned properly because the pins were holding it and they got a little messed up. So we're just going to reposition that and restart the machine. This is why we're sewing on the inside. If you're making this for yourself, no one is going to care how your seams or your stitches look. If you're making this for a class, follow your teacher's instructions. Don't listen to me. I'm giving you a shit ton of bad advice. Nice. Now that you have the one side done, you can pull it out and cut the threads and make sure it looks good to you. Obviously for me, it's pulling a bit down here at the bottom. So if that's happening to you, the easiest way to fix that is to once again fit the tank top onto the machine. And then you just kind of straighten this out. Whoa, strap is in there. And you kind of just sew down here at the bottom as well. See, my machine was not positioned properly, but that's okay. Now you're going to sew down here at the bottom. I'm obviously sitting and sewing at an angle as well, which you guys should definitely not be doing. Do not sit and sew at an angle. The only reason that I'm doing that is so you guys can actually see my machine. Yeah, now you're going to sew at the bottom. I am going to go a little bit quicker at this point. Wait, I could go faster, but I'm obviously going at a speed that you guys can hear and see the machine. So now that that's done, needle up, foot up, pull out, pull, cut, and then you should have one side of the tank top sewn on like mine. If you're wondering about these ends, what are we going to do? Well, now we're going to put the tank top on the machine again, and we're going to position it kind of weird. We're going to go so it's kind of vertical. And we're going to sew down that end at the top. Do not sew down the end at the bottom. We'll talk why in a second. But you're just going to do another straight zigzag stitch here like I'm showing you in this tutorial down the end. And also, I personally do not have a serger or even like sergers. If you want my hot takes on sergers, I can give them to you guys. But yeah. Now, you've got a pretty solid lace trim on your favorite tank top. Now, if you're wondering, it looks a little floppy. How do we fix that? Well, it's easy. Put it back on the machine. In. And then hold it down. And you're going to make another stitch. And it's going to look kind of like a weird stitch, but you're going to stitch along the edge of the tank top, like I'm doing here. Because you don't have pins in, make sure that you are holding it down with your hands like you see me doing. I would also, once again, recommend that you still use the zigzag stitch. If yours is like mine and you're wondering if something's off with your stitch, you can easily go back down to a standard one up, one down stitch. And then see if it's stuck, and you can see that mine is stuck. So we're going to put the foot up, and we're going to cut the thread. We're going to check out what happened here. Since it looks potentially like just the fabric just got snagged. And yep, you can see that the fabric just got snagged. That'll happen. If that happens, you're just going to pull it up. You guys give me one moment here. My bobbin camp just ran away. The cap of my bobbin cover just ran away. So we're going to sew without the bobbin cover. You guys don't do this. Please don't sew without your bobbin cover. I'm only doing this because I am lazy. But you can see that my bobbin is fine, and you can just reposition your fabric here, like I'm doing. And then you can start this on a straight up and down stitch just to make sure it's working okay. And you can see it is. So we're going to go up to a zigzag stitch, which on my machine is 3. And we're just going to start stitching there. We're going to make sure we keep going. Make sure that you're stretching your lace out, that way you don't accidentally sew a lace pleat, because in my personal experience, sewing a pleat on accident and then having to undo said pleat with a seam ripper is not fun, and trust me when I tell you that I've had to do that a fair few times. Also, please, please, please keep your fingers away from the needle. I just made that mistake. And you will end up with a banged up nail and a gangly finger, which is why I'm trying really hard to keep said finger out of the screen so YouTube doesn't give me a vulgarity punishment by censoring this video. Whoop, 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 whoop. Up, up, out, and cut. You can see, oh no, it's still kind of screwed up. And why is that, you might be asking? Because the bobbin isn't threaded. Isn't threaded. So now you're going to thread your bobbin. And once you have two tails, you really want to have two tails coming out here. Here, put it back on the thing. Once again, make sure that it's only this top side. And you're just going to have to sew the top bit again. I know this video is quite long for something that seems like it would be very simple, but in reality, most clothing, the process of making it, upcycling it, DIYing it, or doing really anything regarding clothing, no matter how simple it looks or seems, in reality, it isn't that simple, and it's actually quite hard. Because there's cutting, pinning, sewing, issues your machine could have. So many things could go wrong and add time to it. Obviously, I am going quite fast. As you can see, I would not recommend that you go this fast, especially since this could be, since when you're going fast, it can be quite hard to spot errors, as you have already seen a couple times in this video. Now that that's sewn down, up, 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 out, and cut. And you can see that it's still a little messed up, and that's because when you put it on, it'll look nicer. Now, you can see that my other lace does not perfectly really cope well and looks kind of messed up. Well, that one is not sewn on yet, so you can fix it. And the way you fix it is you take out your pins, you stretch it on here, and then you line it up with the other side. And then you place it on here. You can choose to pin it down. At this point, you probably might not want to pin it down, which I get. And then you're going to do the stitches, the sewing, the actual cool, fun part. Now you can do what I plan to do, which is just to sew a line here along this top part. Continue with your zigzag stitch. And sew as shown. And if you're wondering, and you're pretty confident since you did a great job on the other side, yep, you sew just like you did on the other side, and you repeat the steps. And now you can see that I accidentally cut my lace a little short. And if you're wondering if you can fix that, you can. And the way you fix that, you go get some more lace. This from your trim. Him. And then you line up. Line it up. And you cut what you need. So in my case, I need about a 1/4 inch here. We're going to line it up. And we're going to push it over here. And we're going to sew this extra bit down. Please, I would 100%, if you guys want a massive sewing tip from me, I would recommend getting a chair and sitting down. You can obviously sew standing up, but personally, I find that like so much harder than it's worth, so much more trouble than it's worth to sew in a stood position. So I would recommend that you sit down to sew. Now you sew that on. You've obviously noticed it's a little messed up compared to the other one. And that is because we need to sew the ends of the side down. So obviously because on this one we added extra lace, we're going to have to sew that extra lace to the other one. And the way that we're going to do that is we line it up. You can see that my needle came unthreaded. An easy way to know if you're sewing with an unthreaded needle is, is this thing, your thread spool, not going? So, boom, boom, snip, oop, down, and through that tiny little hole. And this is like finding a needle in a haystack. And if you're wondering, I personally keep my tension at 3 for this project. But if you want to make it tighter, that could definitely affect your project. It might make it easier. That is a very personal choice for me. So now you gotta hold your laces close together. This could be a great reason to use a pin or a clip. In my case, we're going to clip the lace. I'm going to put a sideways clip on that lace. Because we're going to... Now you guys, now you get to a kind of a hard part. You have to put the lace together like that. And now you gotta just kind of sew. I do apologize that my stutter might be flaring up a bit. This bit, but unfortunately that is a minor occurrence for me. Obviously you can see we had a little thread fabric snag, but just got it. It looks like a little spider. I call them thread spiders. Another thing you can do, because that didn't really work out very well, is that you can also take a tray like this off, which is what we're going to do now. We have to do this a little bit of a weird way. So I would recommend taking your tray off and just laying it to the side for a minute. Since I want to basically get this tank top up, kind of like coming up from the bottom here. And obviously, if you're wondering, an easy way to test once again is to go down to a straight stitch, which on my machine is set at 0, 0. Well, and just make sure. And in my machine, it's bias defaulting, which is a machine issue. I don't know if any of you know what bias defaults are. They're quite annoying, honestly. I was wondering, it's when your machine is going to the side it thinks has more fabric, or even if that side has less fabric. There isn't only some machines do it. Mine happens to be a machine that bias defaults. That might not be the term, but I call it that since I like to say that it's defaulting for the side that it has a bias because it wants to sound better. And obviously this does not want to work, so I'm gonna try something. I will be right back once I figure out what's going on. Okay guys, so basically what I did is something I can talk about if you guys want me to. I just paneled another piece of lace in there to connect the two pieces, and I just kind of did a standard stitch on it. And now you're almost done, but we have one last little step we gotta do, and that is we gotta sew these two pieces together. So you put them on there like I did there. Now you can use a standard stitch or a zigzag stitch, and boom. So that one down. And then I like to also pull this out and cut. And then boom, you're pretty much done, except, ignore that. Please don't sew denim down. That would not look right. Except we gotta sew this end. So now we do this. Boom. Do a standard stitch for all this, by the way. The up, down one. If you have issues with the bottom of your stitch as well at this point, you can, TBH, you can just do that. And then that. And then just like sew it on the bottom. Like this. And then you do it on the other side. You can actually just keep going. And then do that. And then that. And then that. Sorry guys, my machine outside the smoke detector doesn't like work right now. So that's why it's beeping. And then, this is gonna bother me forever. Then, boom, you're done. Next step, just flip it right side out. And then, boomaroomy. You've created your very own stretchy lace tank top. Okay, everyone, now it's time for me to do the outro. I hope you guys liked this video. I hope you guys liked sewing tutorials and more DIY tutorials and idea inspiration videos for you guys in this series. The main reason I created this series was to be able to give you guys ideas and inspiration for things that you can make, as well as give you guys tutorials. That way it's a little bit easier for you guys to make them. Obviously, your tank top is not going to look perfect. Mine doesn't look perfect, but it still looks very good, doesn't it? And that's what matters. It looks really, really good, and it's just cute. And you made it, so when you're walking and wearing it and someone's like, oh girl, where'd you get that cute tank top from? You can tell them, oh, I made it. And that's what this series is about. It's about being able to give you guys things that you can make and wear and ideas on things like that. But I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did enjoy it, please go ahead and like it. And if you want to see more fashion content, especially DIY and sustainable fashion, you can go ahead and hit the you can hit the subscribe button down below. In addition to that, if you don't like the video, go ahead and hit the dislike button. That doesn't bother me. If you want to leave a comment down below and give me ideas for things that I should make or make tutorials on how to make, you can go ahead and do that. I try to reply to every single comment as well as like every single comment. And if I don't have anything to say, I will at least notice that you commented, and thank you for commenting because it helps. In the description down below is a link to all of my other different social media pages where you can find me. There's a variety linked below in that link tree. One of them is my Discord server that you can join. I'd recommend you join that because that is a really good way to talk to me and other people that I know, including both my online friends, my IRL friends, and just people that like my content and so many more. You can follow my Substack to get some of my written versions of these videos where I talk kind of about them. I am currently working on a piece for next Friday. They come out once They come out once a month on Friday. The next one will probably come out the second or third Friday of this month of September. And if it's already past that, it's either out or it's just delayed because I'm being really lazy and don't want to write it. But that's all from me, and I hope you guys have a be-a-tastic rest of your day, evening, night, or whenever you're watching this.